Welcome back to Morning on Merritt Street. We are having a very touching and emotional conversation this morning. We just talked about choosing the right path for you and your family. When it comes to the pet end of care that your family will deal with, we all will deal with this if we have a pet at some point in time. The death of our pets is just like the death of a family member. It is hard. It's emotional. And until now, workplaces, most of them don't acknowledge pet loss as the same as a human loss. According to the CDC, unsupported grief in the workplace, it can cost companies more than $225 billion each and every year. Not to mention the emotional toll that it takes on the people experiencing the loss, many of us. And studies also show when it comes to pet loss, many employees are simply afraid to ask for time off. So joining us this morning to continue these conversations about why more companies should, in fact, consider adding a pet bereavement option is CEO of Directories and the author of Pets Are Family, Erica Sinner. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. There is the book on the screen right now. I am so glad we're talking about this. As I was listening to Dominique have the conversation in the last break, I went through this in 2004. My dog suddenly had to be put down, and I held her during both of those injections. I did not want her to be alone. I did it in a doctor's office. But after that, I was really surprised by how it affected me emotionally. I couldn't go to work for a week, and I had to ask off because I would have busted into tears on television. So and it is something I think that so many people go through, and you don't even think of, should there be a pet bereavement policy? Why did you start advocating for this?
First, I want to say I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh,
I lost my beloved dog Kingston last year. A few weeks later, my other dog Edmund came down with cancer. So it made for a really hard summer. And we've always had pet bereavement policies within our corporate policies, but actually taking it, I didn't realize the stigma around pet loss and pet grief. There is shame in it. You wonder, will people understand?
Yeah.
Will they think it's just a dog? And it was critical for me to do that, to normalize the conversation. And so I feel a responsibility to advocate for others to have access, to be able to have time off.
Well, I have a little doggie now, a little Ari. A lot of people have seen her on social media. She's 14. So now these thoughts are coming back around, and it's hard to even think about it.
Yes.
But billions of dollars are being lost each and every year.
Every year.
When companies can do more to support their employees, what are some of those options that companies can consider in terms of integrating this into their policies?
Absolutely. There's been studies that have shown companies who have compassionate policies like pet bereavement leave have happier employees and higher retention rates. And so that's a workforce that wants to stay with you. I still believe if you're not able to offer even a single day, it's about helping that individual reprioritize their tasks, keep their head above water. You're readjusting for this moment in time that impacts them, their manager, your company's reputation. They're still representing you as an organization. And what a beautiful way to be able to show up for them in such a difficult time.
I think you bring up a really important point, from a perspective of the employer, from a company's perspective. There are benefits to doing it. You're not just losing an employee for a few days. There are some actual hands-on concrete benefits that do affect the bottom line.
That's right. So if doing it from an emotional place of connecting deeper with your employees to have them stay with you, studies also show to replace an employee is 3 to 4 times the salaried position that they have. So you get the economic benefits for sure, the $200 billion a year to also replacing an employee, but also what a beautiful way to show up for them and have them really feel connected to you as an organization.
I'm so glad you wrote this book. I have it. I have not had the courage to open it yet, but I know I'm going to need it. So what are some of the things you can tell us this morning that can help us navigate that grief? Because I did skim the book, so you go into a lot of detail, and that's part of the reason why I didn't want to put myself in that emotional space yet. But these are, I'm going to have to read it at some point. But what are some of the things that we can start thinking about now?
My goal with the book was one, to normalize. There's nothing wrong with you. This is normal. Talk to people. This is the time to lean on your family and friends. If you're feeling overwhelmed, consider going to your doctor. Mental health is health care. I think for us too, something that really helped us is creating an altar for Kingston and donating to a local animal shelter in his name, knowing we were helping another animal in need because of the love we shared with him was just, it was beautiful for us.
I like what you said, creating an altar, because I have my first little girl, Sadie, and I didn't want to bury her because I'm like, if I move, I want to take her with me.
Yes.
So she goes with me everywhere I
Everywhere.
go, and she's always in my bedroom in her little picture and everything.
You can say hello.
Yes, it's a nice way to kind of just ease the pain.
Yeah.
And create a loving memorial.
Yes.
So thank you
Yeah.
for writing this book. Like I said, I really can't wait to dive into it. I just have to get mentally and emotionally prepared to read it, because you are such a gifted author. And the words you use, I did read some of the paragraphs, and you have a beautiful way of expressing this. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing your heart, and thank you for advocating for all of us pet lovers.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me.